to Deep Sleep Stories. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep, a short review, comment, or sharing the podcast with someone who might benefit is a simple and meaningful way to support the show so that we may continue to offer it for free. Now, take a slow, gentle breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. You've chosen this moment to rest, to allow the concerns of the day to quietly settle and recede. In the soft hush of night, your body yearns for a gentle space of calm, a refuge where each breath becomes a soothing lullaby. You close your eyes and listen, letting the silence become your companion. Notice the gentle rhythm of air entering your lungs, then leaving in a slow, steady pace. With each exhale, picture your worries drifting away like leaves carried on the autumn wind. Soon, you will step into a realm of tall, whispering pines, soft coastal winds, and fading fall colors in Acadia, Maine. This story will guide you into a serene place where nature gently wraps you in a comforting embrace. You feel the warmth beneath you, the tender cradle of your bed, or wherever you rest. The weight of your own body becomes familiar, a gentle anchor that grounds you in this moment. Notice how your chest rises and falls with minimal effort. The more you pay attention, the easier it becomes to yield to the simplicity of breathing. Outside, perhaps, the night is calm, though the faintest sounds might stir in the distance. A car passing, a breeze rattling the nearest window, or the subtle hum of household appliances. Yet those small sounds only serve to deepen your sense of tranquility. They remind you of all that exists beyond your immediate cocoon of peace. Inhale once again, a bit deeper this time. And as you breathe out, allow your muscles to relax, shoulders dropping slightly, brow unfurrowing, fingers loosening. You are ready to listen, to wander gently through the soothing hush of a story and drift toward a peaceful night's rest. The daylight in Acadia, Maine is soft and cool this time of year, and the scent of pine needles is sweet in the crisp autumn air. One individual whose spirit was weary yet open to the healing power of nature found their way to this coastal haven. Having decided to escape the clamor of their routine, they arrived just as the foliage was transforming from the fiery reds of early fall to the softer golds that hinted at the coming chill. Their footsteps, slow and measured, took them away from busier paths and deeper into the hush of the pines. The quiet forest welcomed their presence with gentle acceptance. Pine needles cushioned each step, forming a soft, fragrant carpet that released a comforting aroma reminiscent of childhood walks through wooded trails. The sun, now leaning toward the far edge of the sky, cast playful beams of light that flickered between tall trunks. Shafts of gentle warmth illuminated patches of moss and lichen clinging to ancient rocks. Here, in this tranquil corridor of trees, time seemed to stretch, allowing each moment to unfold unhurriedly. Gusts of coastal wind breathed through the branches, a sea-scented breeze tangling with the pine-scented air. The swaying trees whispered secrets in a language that had persisted since long before any human footsteps graced these paths, the hush of their conversation was not ominous. Rather, it was comforting, an invitation to slow down, to listen to rhythms older than any pressing obligations. A little deeper into this forest, a narrow trail coiled toward a lookout high above the ocean. Steady steps carried the solitary wanderer onward, each footfall accompanied by the soft, padded shuffle against the bed of pine needles. Light filtered through the canopy in streaks of muted gold. Now and then, the traveler paused, drawn to a ray of sunlight illuminating a cluster of auburn leaves, still clinging to their branches. Once crisp and bright, these leaves had begun to curl at the edges, their colors fading into mellow, earthy tones. Autumn's final show was well underway, each leaf's quiet departure telling a gentle, graceful story of change. Not far from the trail, a small creek tumbled over smooth stones. Its melody blended with the distant wash of waves rolling against Maine's rocky coastline. A few birds flitted about, letting out short calls, punctuating the forest's hush. In the distance, gulls soared near the water, their voices echoing over the cliff sides. This mixture of coastal and woodland sounds wove a soft tapestry of peace, comforting as a lullaby. The wind touched these pines, setting them into a slow, constant sway, as though each tree were gently bowing to the sea. The traveler, now completely absorbed by this sensory feast, felt a delicate calm settle over their mind. The burdens carried from busy days far away grew lighter with each step. In a small clearing near the water's edge stood a centuries-old pine. Its gnarled trunk showed the scars of time, yet its boughs stretched outward in a gesture of enduring resilience. Here the traveler paused, letting a hand trace the rough bark of the ancient tree. Beneath that broad canopy, they felt sheltered, as if the old pine offered silent reassurance that all things, both worries and joys, are part of an ever-flowing cycle. Overhead, the canopy's needles formed a verdant mosaic, each piece trembling softly whenever the wind rustled through them. A wave of serenity washed over the traveler. Every moment was full of gentle discovery, from the first sensation of the salty breeze to the earthy perfume that enveloped this corner of Acadia. Leaving the pine's protective circle, the solitary figure ventured toward a nearby overlook. Here, the forest opened up to reveal a wide stretch of ocean, waves undulating in slow, constant rhythm. The horizon met the water in a subtle haze of pastel blues and grays. Cliffs framed the view, their rocky faces providing both rugged contrast and quiet grandeur to the scene. Sunlight danced on the water's surface, each glimmer a playful reminder of the simple wonders that await patient observers. High above, a lone hawk circled, gliding on unseen currents of air, scanning the shoreline. Below, the coastal wind rose and fell, a marine serenade that mingled with the hush of whispering pines. The traveler found a comfortable rock near the edge, one smoothed by centuries of wind and rain. Sitting down, they let the scene before them fill every corner of awareness. The waves, gentle yet persistent, rolled against the shore, polishing stones and sea glass until each surface gleamed under the soft glow of afternoon light. The traveler closed their eyes for a moment, just breathing. Fragments of distant gull cries floated up from below, and for a few heartbeats nothing existed except the cyclical lull of the tide, the slow exhalation of wind between the trees, and the crisp scent that hovers between land and sea. The hush of the forest behind them was an anchor, quiet yet unwavering. It offered a safe place to rest one's mind. When the traveler opened their eyes again, the sky had begun its subtle shift toward evening. Rich undertones of peach and lavender emerged at the edges of the horizon. Clouds, once a pale silver, deepened into swirls of amethyst and gold, reflecting the sun's final luminous rays. Another breeze wove its way through, stirring the pine needles in a harmonious sigh. The traveler remained still, entranced by the interplay of light, shadow, and color. Hours could have slipped by unnoticed, for the hush of this place allowed time to stretch and soften. Eventually, the traveler rose from their seat and followed the trail that curved gently downward. Each step led them closer to the water's edge, where a narrow band of rocky shore provided a new vantage. Down here, the rhythm of the ocean felt closer, more intimate. Waves coaxed pebbles into soft, rattling choruses, and clumps of seaweed swayed in the shallows. The crisp air carried the lingering fragrance of pine mixed with brine, a subtle perfume that left a faint tang on the tongue. Sunlight, now angled low, cast long shadows across the rocks, painting them in gentle hues of orange and purple. The day moved quietly forward, each minute an invitation to slow down, to savor every leaf and every ripple of water. As the traveler meandered along the rocky shoreline, they observed bits of driftwood, worn smooth and pale as bone. Each piece hinted at an untold story of journeying across open water, carried by currents until finding rest on this gentle curve of coast. Occasionally, they stooped to pick up a pebble or shell, admiring the intricate details etched by time and tide. For a moment, the traveler was tempted to pocket a few souvenirs, but something about the peaceful sincerity of the place suggested leaving these small treasures for future wanderers to discover. Instead, the traveler placed them carefully back, grateful for the glimpse of their subtle beauty. Farther along, the shoreline curved into a small cove, tucked away from the more dramatic waves of the open sea. The water here was calmer, gently lapping at the rocks. At the far end of this sheltered nook, a cluster of pine trees stood tall, their reflection wavering in the water whenever a breeze stirred the surface. The traveler, seeking a moment of deeper stillness, settled onto a stretch of smooth stones that formed a natural seat. Here, in the soft glow of late afternoon, they gazed upon the mirrored green of the pines, the delicate drift of a feather carried by a faint current, and the quiet possibility that arises when the mind rests in a single moment. While the traveler sat, Thoughts of unfinished tasks and responsibilities hovered at the edges of awareness, but each time they appeared, a deep breath guided them gently away, like a stray cloud passing across an otherwise tranquil sky. The hush of the forest and sea merged into a comforting cradle for the senses. It was as though the land itself whispered lullabies, reminding every weary heart that nature's gentle rhythms are a balm to the restless mind. After a while, the sun began its final descent, allowing the sky to blossom with the warm, glowing embers of dusk. Deciding to head inland again, the traveler followed a path that wound away from the shore and back into the forest. Along the trail, they noticed how the light had softened, transforming the world into a realm of gentle shapes and subdued colors. The wind, calmer now, brushed the pines in intermittent breaths, stirring a quiet chorus among the branches. Occasionally, a leaf drifted down, swirling gracefully before resting on the soft bed of pine needles. The traveler moved slowly, letting their footsteps match the unhurried pace of the shifting daylight. A small wooden footbridge crossed a narrow creek that fed into the ocean. Stopping there, the traveler leaned on the smooth railing to watch the water trickle beneath. In the low light, reflections danced on the rippling surface. The creek's gentle murmur blended with a subtle breeze overhead. This unassuming corner of the forest felt like a sacred pause, an invitation to linger in stillness. The traveler accepted, allowing the sigh of the water and the hush of the pines to lull them into a calm so complete it felt like a soft emptiness. No rush or urgency intruded here, only the quiet assurance that the woods held space for every visitor seeking solace. As dusk settled into a cooler, quieter presence, the traveler continued along a winding path that curved deeper into the trees. Here, the pines grew more closely together, forming a natural cathedral. Their tall trunks rose like pillars, while the canopy overhead glistened in the dimming light. A gentle hush reigned. The only sound was the near silent rustle of pine needles shifting with the last threads of the evening breeze. Pockets of gold and amber light still glowed within some clusters of leaves, though most had turned pale and translucent, as if preparing to let go. Now and then, a leaf would detach and drift slowly downward, an elegant farewell to the season. In this soft twilight, the forest looked like a world drifting off to sleep. Creatures that wander by day had mostly found their dens or nests, while nocturnal life began its subtle stir. A distant rustle in the undergrowth, a gentle hoot of an owl from above. These were the small signs of the forest's nighttime pulse. The traveler did not feel fear, only a sense of reverence and wonder. The moon, newly risen, sent faint silver beams through the treetops. Shadows stretched in soft lines across the forest floor. The air felt cooler, carrying a hint of the coming winter. In the hush, each breath became a meditation, each step a soft communion with the land. Eventually the path opened into another clearing. Here stood a modest wooden cabin tucked at the edge of a grove of pines. It was not grand or imposing, yet a welcoming glow spilled from the windows, illuminating a small porch. Smoke curled from a humble chimney, dissolving into the star-flecked sky. This haven appeared like a gentle lantern in the forest, a place where the traveler might pause and find rest. Drawn by that promise, they approached quietly, listening to the floorboards creak underfoot. Inside, a gentle light and mild warmth awaited. A single lamp on a side table, a small fireplace, with embers glowing like contented fireflies. The cabin's furnishings were simple: a wooden table, a couple of chairs, and a cozy nook with a bed layered in soft quilts. The traveler stepped inside and felt the mild heat caress chilled skin. A sense of gratitude welled up, as though the forest itself provided this warm shelter. The traveler lingered by the fireplace, stretching weary hands toward the gentle flames. Outside, the night deepened, but here, in this snug interior, time slowed to a sweet lull. The glow of the fire danced along the cabin walls, painting them in flickering patterns. Taking a seat by the small table, the traveler let out a breath that seemed to release not just air, but a day's worth of thoughts and any remnants of tension. The hush that settled over the cabin was profound. Even the wind outside seemed to quiet, as though content to let the forest sleep undisturbed. From the open window, the traveler could still sense the ocean's presence. Faintly, the distant lull of the waves, the salty tang carried on night air, and that timeless conversation between coast and trees. The pine branches, though mostly still, rustled occasionally in a passing breeze. The traveler listened, eyes half closed, to that soft, undulating hush. The day's walk, the gentle immersion in nature, had slowly dissolved the layers of worry once carried. Now, with only the glow of firelight and the quiet company of the forest, the mind felt spacious, open, and unhurried. Outside, the moon rose higher, revealing silhouettes of tall pines that encircled the cabin like guardians. As the traveler shifted to the small bed, fatigue gave way to a peaceful drowsiness. Settling beneath the soft quilts, they gazed at the dancing shadows on the ceiling, lulled by the rhythmic crackle of the low flames. The hush of night folded around them like a warm cloak. Each breath came deeper, slower. In that quiet sanctuary, the traveler's eyes grew heavy with an easy contentment. Beyond the cabin walls, the pines continued their gentle vigil. The wind, having settled for the night, occasionally let out a mild sigh. Leaves that had been so vibrant just days before now lay in scattered drifts, forming new shapes under the moonlight. The ocean still whispered to the rocky shoreline, each wave a tender reassurance that another dawn would come, bringing with it the promise of renewal. And in the midst of that enduring cycle, a lone wanderer rested, safe under the watchful sky and the comfort of ancient, whispering pines. Time passed in measured silence. The embers in the fireplace glowed faintly, performing a slow, final dance. The cabin's wooden beams seemed to breathe along with the sleeping traveler, expanding and contracting with each shift in temperature. Outside, starlight brushed the tops of pine needles and cast gentle patterns along the forest floor. The hush was absolute, broken only by the soft cadence of the traveler's breathing. Hours drifted, guided by the moon's patient journey overhead. Through it all, the pines remained steadfast, guardians of both quiet wonders and the mysteries of night. When the traveler stirred again, it was not yet dawn. A faint glow on the horizon suggested that sunrise was on its way, but the forest still wore the attire of night. The traveler rose slowly, drawn to step out onto the porch. Wrapped in the warmth of a simple blanket, they gazed at the starlit sky. The air was crisp, brimming with the promise of a new day, though still tempered by the lingering hush of night. Beyond the treetops, the faintest hint of soft blue touched the edges of the sky, heralding the return of morning light. And somewhere, far off in the woods, a distant hoot of an owl drifted on the air, a gentle reminder that the forest never truly sleeps, but merely shifts from one form of life to another. Standing there, the traveler felt the first subtle stirrings of early morning breeze. Pine branches, still heavy with night moisture, swayed ever so lightly, releasing a clean, cool scent into the darkness. The hush made it easy to hear the smallest sounds: the water dripping from a leaf, the quiet crackle of a twig underfoot, the distant rhythmic rush of waves. It was a moment suspended between night and day, where the edges of the forest glimmered with a quiet magic. There was a sense that all things, the towering trees, the rolling ocean, even the drifting clouds, existed in a graceful balance. When the first rays of sunlight finally broke over the horizon, they slipped through the forest in slender beams, illuminating pockets of gentle color that had lingered in the leaves. The traveler watched as the pines, solemn in the moonlight, now took on a soft glow. The bed of fallen needles glistened, touched by the dew. Nearby, a cluster of ferns slowly unfurled, emerald tips catching the new light. The day announced itself not with a loud fanfare, but with a quiet unveiling of beauty that had always been there, waiting for dawn to reveal it. Full morning arrived in a gradual bloom of warmth and light. The traveler felt renewed energy, not the frantic energy of a busy world, but a calm vitality that comes from deep rest. Gathering a few provisions from the cabin, they prepared to continue their journey. Outside, the forest greeted them with gentle acceptance, as though the events of the night had merely woven them deeper into its tapestry. The pines no longer whispered of endings or quiet nights, but of beginnings, soft and unhurried. The crisp autumn breeze carried the promise of more discoveries, the crackle of fallen leaves underfoot, the distant sparkle of ocean waves, the call of seabirds gliding on the horizon. Leaving the cabin behind, the traveler followed the path once more, noticing how the forest had shifted in the early light. Sunbeams filtered through branches, creating shifting patterns on the ground. A light dusting of frost had formed on some leaves and stones, giving the earth a gentle shimmer. The day was still young, and the hush, though softened by the awakening forest, remained peaceful. Birds began their morning songs, welcoming the new day with a chorus of soft chirps and trills. The traveler paused occasionally to admire the shapes of rocks, the texture of bark, or the elegant arc of a lone spider's web, beaded with dewdrops. These small wonders felt like gifts, quiet reminders of nature's grace. Eventually, the trail curved back toward the coastline. Through the trees, the traveler glimpsed the ocean once more, now radiant under the fresh sunlight. Seabirds wheeled overhead, their calls echoing across the water. The traveler found a comfortable spot on a broad, flat rock where sunlight pooled generously. Sitting down, they let the warmth seep in, eyes scanning the horizon where sea and sky converged in a palette of soft blues. A gentle breeze from the water carried the scent of sea salt and sun-warmed kelp. The pines standing behind added their own earthy fragrance to the mix, creating a harmonious blend that was both invigorating and soothing. From this vantage, the traveler reflected on how easily the forest and coastline coexisted, two distinct landscapes meeting in a gentle overlap. The waves, constant and steady, caressed rocky shores with a slow, reliable pulse. The pines, reaching ever upward, whispered to the breeze and offered haven to small woodland creatures. It was a union of land and sea, wind and earth, merging in a slow, melodic dance. The traveler took a deep breath, feeling that unity settle within. Even the slow drifting of thoughts felt aligned with the ocean's rhythm. Each inhalation brought calm. Each exhalation carried away any lingering tension. Time stretched easily, as it often does in places where the natural world holds sway. The traveler remained on the rock, soaking in the gentle interplay of elements. A few clouds passed overhead, dappling the light on the water's surface. Gulls circled closer, riding the gusts of wind that funneled between the cliffs. The ocean, reflecting the shifting sky, glimmered in waves of silver and pale turquoise, and behind it all, the tall pines murmured softly with each passing breeze. It was as if the forest and sea spoke to one another in subtle harmonies, each note a testament to patience and balance. Eventually, the traveler rose, feeling deeply rested despite having walked for much of the previous day. They moved at an unhurried pace, following the path that traced the shoreline. Pebbles crunched lightly underfoot, and the occasional patch of sand revealed delicate footprints that told stories of foxes or shorebirds exploring in the early hours. The tide was lower now, revealing strips of wet sand gleaming with shells. The traveler stooped to examine one shell, small and spiraled, tinted in hues of ivory and soft orange. It looked as though the sea had polished it perfectly, shaping it into a tiny sculpture. The traveler placed it gently back on the sand, letting the ocean's story remain intact. As the morning wore on, the sun climbed higher, and a mellow warmth replaced the coolness of dawn. The forest behind cast shorter shadows. Rays of light highlighted the trunks of the pines, bringing out the reddish tones in their bark. Occasionally, a slight gust of wind blew through, sending a shimmering wave through the treetops. The traveler, now quite at ease, continued down the path, pausing to take in every subtle shift in color, every faint bird call, every soft rustle of leaves. Around a bend in the path, a tranquil lagoon came into view. The water was so calm that the sky and surrounding trees formed a mirror image on its surface, merging land and sky into one seamless portrait. Here, the traveler decided to rest once again, removing their shoes to dip weary feet into the lagoon's cool shallows. Tiny ripples fanned out across the reflection. The water was chilly at first, but soon the traveler adjusted, finding it both refreshing and calming. A gentle swirl of fish darted by, shimmering in sudden arcs beneath the surface. This moment, captured in the hush of the lagoon, felt like a gift, an interlude of pure simplicity. The pine-scented air, the soft lap of water, the gentle flutter of a breeze overhead, it all coalesced into an atmosphere that required nothing of the traveler but presence. Eventually the traveler rose and continued, letting the lagoon fade behind a screen of pines. Following the winding trail, they meandered through more stretches of forest, where shafts of sunlight broke through the canopy and lit up patches of glowing moss. The subtle dryness of pine needles underfoot gave way to occasional pockets of damp earth, smelling richly of decomposition and renewal. Whenever the traveler felt the pull of thought or the weight of memory, they returned to the sensory world around them. A bird's melodic call, a squirrel scurrying, the crisp air brushing against skin. Each time they found a source of calm, a living presence that had been in this place long before and would remain long after. By midday, the traveler reached a gentle rise that overlooked a wide sweep of forest and sea beyond. From here, the coastal winds were more noticeable, carrying a faint but distinct taste of salt. Looking out, the traveler could see the patchwork of autumn colors still clinging to some deciduous trees, though many leaves had already floated to the ground. The forest was shifting toward a quieter, more subdued palette, preparing for winter sleep. The traveler considered this change, reflecting on how natural it felt, how unforced. Nature did not resist the passing of seasons. It embraced them with a kind of quiet grace, a lesson that perhaps all who roam these woods might take to heart. Deciding it was a good place to pause for a simple lunch, the traveler found a fallen log near the viewpoint. Sunlight warmed the wood and a gentle wind ruffled the grass and low bushes. As they ate, they listened to the rustle of leaves and the distant hush of waves. In the far corner of the sky, a V formation of geese flew southward, their calls echoing across the quiet land. The traveler watched them fade into the distance, feeling a kinship with their journey, their calm acceptance of a path guided by instinct and seasons. After this quiet rest, the traveler set off once again, heading inland where the path gradually turned back toward the deeper reaches of the forest. Over the course of the next few hours, the gentle hush of the pines became more pronounced. Occasionally, a fleeting gust of wind would sweep through, stirring needles and sending them spiraling downward. But then, as if satisfied with its playful interlude, the breeze would settle again into silence. The traveler felt no rush, trusting that wherever the path led was exactly where they needed to be. Last, as day sloped toward evening again, the traveler found themselves nearing the place where they had begun. The forest opened slightly, revealing a familiar outcropping of rocks with a welcoming view of the ocean. This time the colors of sunset were even softer, muted pinks, gentle oranges, and a faint lavender glow. A sense of coming full circle settled over the traveler. The experience of walking through Acadia's whispering pines, of feeling the coastal winds and witnessing the fading fall colors had become a tapestry of quiet revelations. Each step, each breath of crisp air had woven a thread of peace into the traveler's heart. Now the horizon faded into twilight. The sun slipped below the distant waves, and a tender hush returned. The last notes of birdsong mellowed into evening calls, and the sky's palette deepened into calming blues and purples. In that moment, the traveler felt the hush embrace them, the forest and sea offering a gentle lullaby. Another night in Acadia brought the pines into their timeless vigil. The traveler rested there, letting the final glow of sunlight guide the mind into a state of contentment and ease. Night settles in once more. The pines stand tall, guardians of the coastline, humming their timeless lullaby to the peaceful traveler. The breeze drifts away, leaving only the faintest whisper in the branches. Day's light has softened into darkness, and the hush of this sacred place promises deep rest. Let thoughts dissolve into quiet. Let the body feel heavy, embraced by earth and sea. Let eyelids grow soft and close gently. The forest keeps watch. The waves continue their gentle lull. All is at peace. A gentle calm surrounds you now, wrapping you in the same tender hush that guided our wandering friend. Let this quiet rhythm carry you deeper and deeper into relaxation. Inhale the sweet memory of pine-scented air. Exhale any tension still lingering in your muscles. Sink further into warmth, releasing the day's concerns. The story rests here in the hush of Acadia's twilight, offering a final moment of stillness before sleep fully claims you. May your dreams be touched by the forest's whispers and the ocean's endless lull. May the gentle magic of this place remain with you long after the last echoes of the day have faded. This night you are safe, cradled by nature's tender presence. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.